Now we need to prove it. We cannot just say it and then declare we are doing fine here. We need to prove it. How do we prove it? She's saying still theory. Okay, good for you, Beth. I don't know it. I don't study as much theory as you. Good for you, theory nerd. Beth at the age of 20 is a 2500 rated player. I have never had 2500, so that's beyond my peak. Beth is ready to take on the world's best players and is getting invites to top events for the opportunity to prove herself as a grandmaster. Will you accept the invite? Beth, I'm accepting your invite, and I also fully approve of your eyeliner and lipstick look. This is when we started to look more alike in terms of makeup too. I guess I'm taking on your challenge, and you are the favorite in this game. By rating, you are the favorite in this game. She's saying, hello, I'm looking for a challenge. Can you provide that for me? Hopefully, but you're the higher rated player here, so she's playing my favorite opening, the French defense. The French defense. Let's see, what can I do against my own favorite opening? So she's playing the Tarrasch variation of the French. That's what I used to play as well. I have tried a lot of different lines against knight d2. So that's the Tarrasch, and knight f6 is the most classical approach against it. But there are a couple of other lines, side lines, that are also pretty interesting, including bishop e7 on move 3. For those who are interested in the French defense, that was my pet line. That was my favorite line. Knight e2 is the setup here because the other knight goes to f3. This line of the French defense isn't that simple to understand on a beginner or intermediate level, because it's not exactly how you normally develop your pieces. But overall, the idea is that you want to guard the d4 pawn. She's playing queen b6 here, going for the attack of this pawn. You want to try to keep that d4 square strong. You want to try to hold on to this structure because white has more space. And as long as I have more space, my pieces are also happier. There's more room for them to be activated. So black is trying to break that. She wants to break it with c5 and f6 and wants to put pressure on my pawn chain. For now, I'm just gonna castle. We have a couple of options. This should still be developed. The question is, will this pawn be hanging? Can she take it? If so, will I think about b3, bishop b2 to guard this pawn further? That's another way of playing. Or will I go for the attack and try to play bishop g5? This is a vulnerable spot in black's camp. I could already attack it with a move like knight to g5, but this trade isn't too bad for black to get rid of the knight. So I don't think I can go for that straight away. It's not just the next move that I'm thinking of, but the structure I want to go for, the setup, the piece placement I want to go for. I can also bring the knight through these squares toward the king. d4 is not hanging, so now, for instance, I could move the knight away, knight to g3 or knight f4, because if she takes everything on d4, at the end there will be a queen on d4 and I win the queen with bishop h7. So I could move the knight if I want to. On e2 is definitely not ideal. That's another thing I'm looking at, to move the knight to f4 or g3. I think what she will do, if I don't do anything immediate, she will want to play f6, trade, and then put even more pressure on this d4 pawn. So that is her idea. Maybe for those positions it does make sense that I bring the knight first. Knight f4 prevents the pawn push because e6 is hanging. At the same time, it's in the way of my bishop. But does that matter? Is that an issue? Let's go and see. It's an interesting move. It does prevent this pawn push. She pushes c4. That I did not expect, because this pawn push is committal. It means that my pawn structure will stay like this unless she can push f6, but she cannot push f6 later because this is hanging. So this is pretty committal. I would not have gone for this from black's perspective. And now back to d8. Beth, have you studied the French defense well enough? There's nothing wrong with this immediately, but the concept is bad because you want to keep that c5 pawn pressing the d4 pawn. That's the whole idea in the French defense. Sometimes you do push c4, but usually it means you want to castle queenside. That's why you need to close, or you will have time for b5, b4. Here I don't think it was a good decision. Once again, it's not a blunder, but I think the concept is wrong. I'm hoping my French defense knowledge is better than Beth's, because Beth is great at the Sicilian defense, but this French defense with the bishop still stuck on c8, no f6 can be pushed, it feels wrong. This is too slow, really. You should be able to push f6, you should be able to get this bishop somehow out. So how do we punish this? How do we punish the fact that she's not playing the French defense very well? We still need to develop our pieces too, of course. So this is nothing like a winning position. It's better for white, but it's not winning. I'm looking at these kind of moves and later attack on g7, because it's in the way of the bishop. But for now, the knight is preventing the idea of f6 because this is always hanging. So I might leave it here for now. It's doing a great job preventing black's main idea of pushing f6. I can push b3. Sometimes when you have a pawn like this in the position of thorn, you want to attack it. But b3, b5, we're gonna end up playing on the flank where she wants to play. Unless I can play there a4. But no, the queen side is not where I want the action to be. That's where she wants the action to be, not me. It's just that she's undeveloped, that's why I'm looking at these options, because the rook on a8, the bishop on c8. Usually, when you have a pawn structure like this, imagine it as an arrow. My pawns are pointing at the king side, and her pawns are pointing at the queen side. And usually it works pretty well, this visual direction, because that's where you have more space. I have more space in the center and I have more space on the king side. I can attack easier on the king side, while for her it makes more sense to push on the queen side. So I'm gonna let her do that. I'm gonna let her do her own plan on the queen side. I'm gonna focus on the king side. But for now we need a move. I can play something like queen e2 to then bring the rooks in, move the bishop. Queen e2 is solid. It's solid, getting the queen to the e5. She goes for it. She wants to attack on the queen side. Well done. I know that's what you wanted, Beth. It's okay. I can prevent b4 by pushing a3. She then can follow up with a5, but for now the rook will be hanging on a8 for all those pins. She can't just go for that immediately. She will develop the bishop to b7, but that means again that her idea of pushing f6 is not becoming a real threat anytime in the near future. She just cannot get that move in. It's always an issue that the pawn will be hanging. I think I do want to stop b4 for now to slow down her idea, even though it's not a big deal. So I could either just not do anything on the queen side or slow it down. a3, bishop b7, a5, then b4 is what she can do, or I can let her do it without me pushing a3. Go for this trade in the future. She'll put pressure on the c3 pawn. I'm gonna have to focus on the queen side. It's not my forte. I'm not a very direct attacking player. I'm more of a strategic positional player, but I'm gonna have to focus on the king side and the king's attack. So this is another one of those big decisions, because the structure will change whether the pawn is pushed to a3 or whether you keep it on a2. I can also stop this by pushing b4 to kind of fix everything on the queen side. Will she take to open up the c file? Then I can take back with the a pawn. This is hanging. Then she pushes b4. Then I have c4. I don't think that opening the position for her is right now the right idea for her, unless she can keep everything guarded, because she's not developed yet. So I normally don't want to play on the queen side, but she's undeveloped. That's why I'm thinking what happens if I do end up breaking up that structure. Because if I do this, I get the d3 square for my queen, and I can attack here easier. So b4 to close everything, to shut down everything. b4, a5 I think is a better approach for her there. So I'm not getting the d3 square. If I could get the d3 square, fine, but if I don't get it, then it doesn't make sense for me to play on the queen side by concept. Another way you can get the queen bishop better is to place the bishop on b1 and the queen on c2. It's pretty passive, but that would be one way to put pressure on the h7 pawn. There can only be one genius redhead in chess. Take her down, Anna. Thank you. Thank you. h4 is the kind of alpha zero move I'm always tempted to look at, but that sacrifice for now may not be the right one. If I could bring the rook in, yeah, then fine. but my rook is still very far. I could also go for g3, h4, get the king here, knight g5, those kind of ideas, because I don't have much space to bring the rook in if I don't do that. I might just go for that idea actually. I might go for this. Because I want to get more pieces in. And I want to expand further on the king's side. She's developing here, but that means for now she cannot push the f-pawn. She will not go for the usual idea of the French. She's going for another usual idea. So this is common too, of course, to expand on the queen side. But an attack against the king is more crucial if I get it done in the right way. So knight g5 now. Takes, queen takes, knight e6, I would win material. So knight g5 is definitely one of my candidate moves, or I can play king g2 first to be able to bring the rook over to h1 instantly. I'm stepping into this diagonal, but everything is so closed that I don't think it's an issue that the bishop is on b7. Knight g5 or king g2. If knight g5, she'll probably chase me away by pushing h6. I'm gonna play king g2 for now. So she's going for the queenside expansion, the queenside attack, but even if she takes here, she will then have to find a way to get to my c3 pawn. It's not simple. Not simple at all. I definitely don't want to take this because that weakens my d4 pawn, opens the a5. So I'm gonna keep everything as it is. I'm gonna let her take here, and in the meantime we're gonna focus on the king side. Knight g5, h6 is I think what she will play, and then I have to come back with the knight. Or if I play rook h1, h takes, h takes. Is that attack strong? Looks scary. It does look scary. It might be good. It might be good. Knight g5, h6, rook h1, and it looks like the knight on g5 cannot be taken because if h takes, then I'm threatening bishop h7 and also queen h5. But maybe she has their g6. Okay, before I sacrifice a piece for nothing, let's see. Knight g5, h6, rook h1. I'm not threatening anything. So first of all, an issue is I don't have a threat. But if she does take my knight, I take back g6 there to cut my bishop. I should then be able to take on g6. These are not my type of positions in terms of I'm not Miss Tactics. Miss Tactics and Miss Strategy, that is the video series we had with Sopiko Guramishli, one of my best friends, Sopiko. She's Miss Tactics, I'm Miss Strategy. So for me, this is more difficult to know which one is the right way to sacrifice because it's not my nature, it's not my playing style. But I know that in this position I do need to go for the attack. I do need to launch an attack against the king. So I'm seriously considering playing those moves. I could also just play knight g5, h6, even this check, king h8 and then rook h1 if I want to mix up the move order. The bishop on h7 will be hanging too. Messy. Knight g5, h6, rook h1. I do think this has to work. I do think this is so tempting. And h takes. I even have this check. And if she takes, I take with a check. That has to be winning. So I'm gonna make this move and go for the attack. I don't think she can take this. If she takes twice, she takes it. How many more captures until this game is over? I wonder. What do you mean, Beth? I think I'm winning. I think I have... Okay, not winning, but I have a better position. And she's telling me how many more captures until this game is over? We're gonna take this back. And if she captures the pawn, I'm gonna take on e6. That's a discovered attack. And I was gonna win the rook. So now she pushes g6, but that weakens the structure further. And I have the h5 because I have already moved my king to the second rank. I can shift my rook over to the h file. I think this is a great position for white. Why is she so confident? Why is she so confident about this? I don't think she's doing well. Beth, you are very confident and your king is on fire. The h file. b3 is her idea, but I can just come back to b1 in worst case scenario. I can now look at moves like knight h5, this sacrifice, because if she takes it, I take back with the queen and she's about to get checkmated. Let's just double check that because I'm normally not the kind of person that gives up pieces. Also, rook takes h7, I know it's tempting. Is it winning? So if rook takes h7, king takes, queen h5 check, is possible because my bishop is pinning the pawn on g6. It's very important to visualize that. If king g7, queen h6, king g8, and then I take on g6, I'm threatening queen h8, checkmate. What can she do there? If she takes, and queen h7 is checkmate. If she doesn't take my knight, How can she prevent queen h8 checkmate? She has to move the pawn, f5 for instance. But I'm gonna capture that en passant. I don't have to sacrifice the rook. Also, I think knight h5 is a very simple move. Perhaps even simpler than rook h7, because knight h5, she then cannot take this. I don't believe you can survive that position with queen h7 mate coming next. So as appealing as rook h7 is, the fact that she does not have to take it already makes it less forcing. So I'm looking at knight h5 as perhaps an even better, even stronger attacking move, because she cannot take it. If she takes and my queen is on the h file, I think that's curtains. Unless she can move the rook away there, rook to e8 to create space on f8. Is that not curtains, that position? Has to be curtains. I can take on h7 and push g6. That's got to be curtains. That's game over once my bishop gets into the game. So I'm thinking knight h5, she cannot take it, but if she cannot take it, I'm threatening knight f6 check, and after the capture, the dark squares are completely weak. I like knight h5 and I'm gonna go for that move. Wait, she's sacrificing a piece on a5. What is going on? She wants a counter attack. If I take d4 check, opens up the long diagonal, but I have f3 or bishop e4. Is it when she will then take my h5 knight? Wait, has she tricked us? Wait a second, has she tricked us? If I play f3 there, she will then take my knight. I still think she's in trouble because I can take on h5 with the rook, even if it's not the queen, or takes d4. She's threatening after d4, d3, so maybe I should take d4, bishop e4 to trade that bishop. This cannot be good for her. It cannot be good. She can still push d3 and then trade. Maybe that's what she wants. And then capture my knight. But once she takes the knight, I have rook takes h5. She has not survived that attack. Will she play knight c5 there first before taking? That's an option, but that shouldn't change the evaluation because I can bring the queen over to the h file. I know it's a couple of moves ahead from here, but I'm looking at that position because I find it crucial, because that d pawn becomes really strong. But her king is on fire. I think we are still in a good position, in a winning position, but she's making it difficult for me to convert. That's a skill, to not go down easily and let me checkmate her. She's going for the counterattack. Knight f6 now is not as strong as it was. Although, there takes. I could also go for that. I don't have to take the knight on e5. She has given up a knight for the pawn. But I can also just continue with the idea on the dark square. So taking is one option, obviously. And the other option is knight f6, knight takes, pawn takes. If she then takes my pawn, I can capture the knight with the queen. She will have a strong pawn there, but maybe it's not an issue. If she does not take, but moves the knight away, then I have all that idea on the dark squares. If I do sacrifice my queen, knight takes, she can also sacrifice her queen for my knight. So as appealing as it is, we will give checkmate. So that's a beautiful idea that you guys are saying in the chat. If queen takes, knight f6, if the king moves, I have checkmate. But don't forget that if you give up material, the opponent can too give it back. So queen takes, knight f6 check, queen takes. And the game is not over. The game is not over. Counter Bottas gambit is a thing indeed. And the other option is, if we give this check, takes. If she takes on f6, if she takes the pawn, I can take with either the pawn or with the queen. Takes, d4, f3. What happens with that pawn mess? She's got lots of pawns, but it would be a piece up for me. Takes. She can play this move. She can be a bit annoying then after knight d3 to give up the knight for my bishop. Wait, after knight takes, I can take this knight first. By intuition, I think d takes e5 is stronger. But this is simpler. This is simpler. But this is a very concrete line, and in concrete lines, what matters is the exact line, calculating the lines and then comparing them. They all look really appealing. You know what? I think by intuition, this is the strongest move, so I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it. d4 now, and here, this is when she's threatening this, and it's a check, so I need to play bishop to e4. Now, after this move, I have to place the queen in a way that it still is guarding the bishop. I can play queen e3. Queen f3 would attack the bishop twice, but she has knight e5 in that moment. Although, wait a second, if queen f3, knight e5, I do have knight f6. Intermediate move, and there the sacrifice isn't that good. because I can take it with the queen. Yeah, I think it's very similar. Wherever I place the queen, she will have to take the bishop. So more practical is to go for whichever queen move, and after the capture... Did you see this check coming? I did, Beth. I spent like 15 minutes thinking about this before you made the move. What are you saying? If I have seen it, I've been calculating this the whole time. A3. Okay, this move I did not consider. I was looking at this, but then I take rook takes and she's in trouble. I was thinking what happens if knight c5, but then I can bring the queen to the h file and she's in trouble. A3, I still think she's in trouble. She's threatening all sorts of ideas on the queen side, but the king is so much more important at chess. So as long as I get my queen to the h file and this knight f6 move, she has to be busted. This position is lost. It's got to be lost. We just need to carry it out in the most accurate way. Knight f6 check or queen h4. They both look really good. If knight f6, she has to take. So before I get too excited, I may not be giving checkmate there, because after the trade on f6, she can trade my queen. She has queen d5, trading my queen. And in an endgame, she would crush me because of her pawns. So if she survives the attack, then I'm still in trouble because of the queen side. So she's winning on the queen side with the pawns. That's a structure that in an endgame would win. My only chance is that she gets checkmated before she promotes her pawns. So knight f6 is not good for that reason. Queen h4 first threatens this check and then the pawn on h7. That has to be the way. Queen h4 and then takes. I want to take back with the e pawn. That's got to be the way. And if queen h4 takes, I take with the queen on h5. Let's do it. Shall we? h6. Okay, she's trying to avoid checkmate on the h5, but I don't believe in this. I'm not buying it. I'm thinking of knight f6. If knight takes, I could take on h6, and I'm threatening their checkmate on h8. How can she prevent that? So knight f6, knight takes, queen takes. I'm threatening this checkmate. I'm appeased them, but I'm threatening checkmate. She does have a check on d5, but I can then push f3 and there are no more checks. And she's getting checkmated. I think this game over. Beth, as strong as you are, I think you are in trouble. I think you are in deep trouble. So once again, just to double check, we take this, and if this check f3, there are no more checks, and we are threatening checkmate on h8. Okay, I kind of missed this. Overconfidence. I missed this, but it's still not a good defense because we have g4 and take it. It prolongs the game, so I could have spent a little longer considering the consequences because we are not winning just yet. And g4, d2, have I spoiled it? I hope I have not. I hope I have not spoiled it, but it's not winning on the spot. We could also consider taking and g6, but I think that only leads to a draw. I could have been more patient and taken here. And then if h5, g4, this was winning so much easier. Taking on f6 would have been so much easier, but I got overexcited. I went for the wrong move. I still think it's winning. We are winning a piece with g4, but also our bishop will be taken. And these pawns are so advanced. They are very annoyingly advanced. g4 to then take, I think is the right idea, because then I still have the rook and the queen on the h file. Let's go for it, because I already started this. We are all in because I'm giving her chances to survive. f3 to guard the king, and then she will push d2. She does have some checks on the second rank, but I don't think it's too much. She still has to go down. She's threatening though, take or d1. So if we take here, d1, that's a new queen on the board, and we need to give up our rook for it. Oh man, have I just blown the game? Because if I take now, I don't have time to take this, because she takes with a check. We are in trouble. Offer a draw. No. If we take, queen takes. King has to come here. Queen check. The king will have to move to a square where the knight can give a check. I don't think I get checkmated, but that will be a draw. Because I'm threatening checkmate on h8, but she can give perpetual check. I think if I do end up taking the pawn, that will be okay for a draw. If king g1. Oh no, it's not a draw, because takes, queen takes. here she does have a takes b2 for instance, or queen takes b2. Those pawns are super annoying. So I do still have a draw, but I really wanted to win the game. If rook takes, I'm threatening checkmate, so she cannot promote. Pawn takes g6, she can sacrifice the queen. Eee, that's really annoying. I'm just sorry for taking the rook away from the d file if I have to play this. I think she'll take, I take back, then she can take this, threaten the rook, and I don't have time to take this queen. It's collapsing, the position is collapsing. Do I still have even a draw? The draw would also be if I take here, promotes, I take the queen, takes my rook, and then I take the pawn on g6. Wait a second, that's not a draw, because queen c2 check picks up my pawn. That's not a draw. It isn't even that simple to make a draw anymore. It's not that simple. I had a draw earlier, but I don't have it anymore. Oh man, I have ruined such a beautiful position. Such a beautiful position it was. Conclusion. Takes. I need to take back with a pawn. I got overconfident with this move. I didn't calculate knight h5 properly. I should have taken back, and after h5 g4, same position but with a piece up. We would have had the same idea but with a piece up. I did not do that. After knight h5, I still had the option of taking now with the rook, and after pawn takes g6, that would lead to a draw, but I didn't take it because I wanted to play for a win. g4, check, f3, now d2. I'm probably doing badly. I blundered the game away. It's not winning anymore. And not just not winning, I don't have a draw anymore. That's sad. That's sad that we had it. I'll try this. So I'm gonna play this move. I think the position is lost. I think I have ruined it. I thought she would take, but this is probably just as strong, if not stronger, because I don't have the rook anymore. If king g3, she has this check. She will want to take on c1 with her knight. But then I can bring the rook back to h1. This is lost, but I'm gonna play out the moves. I'm gonna play out all this. Now she takes. Makes perfect sense. And that lost now. I'm gonna take, and that's a fork. That's a fork. This is even more annoying. We can move the rook away. For now, she can take this, and then it's a discover check. My king is in trouble. But before I resign, I'm gonna move this back to the h file. I ruined the winning position. I completely ruined it. I ruined it, guys. It's a lost position. We can still put up a bit of resistance because this is finally hanging again. Finally hanging. If king here, it's lost. My position is bad, but it's not completely lost. I will still have minimum fighting chances. We still have some minimum chances here. Okay, not with that move. She doesn't care about this because my king is in trouble. I guess this is the moment. This is the moment. Mr. Scheiber would tell me, just take it, I'll take it and then resign. I'll take it because after rook d3. Did you see this check coming? I did bad, but I could not stop it. I blew it. I think we had it. I'm gonna resign. Well played, Beth Harmon. If I move the king, I'm getting mated in a few moves. Well done. Well done. I'm gonna play a rematch against you in the near future. I think here, after the capture, if I didn't get overconfident with this capture, look at the evaluation bar. We were completely winning. We were completely winning. I wanted to take back with this pawn. The engine is saying the other pawn. I think this is fine. This should be completely winning. Oh, it says it's not winning. h5. But h5, g4. How do you defend? Oh, now she wants to play d2. So even here, I could have ruined it. The computer is saying it's better to take back with the g pawn to open up the diagonal of the bishop. And if h5, oh, now queen g5. Goodness me, this was so simple. We had such a simple win, plus 17. I didn't win it because I forgot. See, this is what you should not do. I got so excited here that after queen h6 we are winning. It's a double question mark because now knight h5. And the best thing we had after knight h5 is to go for the draw. I need to go for the draw, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to make a draw from a winning position. And this moment earlier where I thought for a long time that I thought both moves. It says knight h5 is a blunder? Why? No, this is still winning. Did we have something better? Probably rook h7. Yeah, rook h7 was even stronger. I was looking at that, but it wasn't that clear here to me. Well, this was pretty clear. f5, I thought she still has. It has to be winning though. It has to be winning for white, this position. But I also just thought that, you know, you don't have to take it. But I guess this was, after all, it was stronger because I didn't see I didn't see that against this plan she can just take on e5. That was a good practical move. Knight takes e5 was a good practical move, even if it shouldn't save the game. It should not save the game at all. All these moves were good. And then this is a mistake. And this is a huge mistake. I gotta take back. I gotta take it with the pawn, and it's winning. It's completely winning. We missed our chance. We're gonna try this again next time. Thank you so much for watching. This was streamed live on my Twitch channel where I stream full time, 5 days a week. Do catch us live next time or follow the highlights and the votes here on my YouTube channel. In either case, I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much again, and bye for now. Until the next time.